Well, good afternoon, everybody, and hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. Today is November 28th, 2016, and we're meeting at the Riley Fire Station with Holland Charter Township as a host. Just to kick off our meeting, I'd like to start out with introductions and
John Conexel, County Road Commission.
David Vangenhoven, at large.
Don Bird, Ottawa Road Commission.
Russ DeSala, Max Authority Board.
Nancy DeVore, City of Holland.
Jim Story, Allen County Board of Commissioners.
Howard Bauman, Fort Township.
Ken DeWeert, Fillmore Township.
Terry Offmeyer, Laketown Township. But I can't Dillon Township.
Terry Neenheim, Collin Township.
Jerry Huntsberger, Park Township.
Blaine Copes, the MACC.
Steve Boldice, Executive Director of the MACC.
Pankaj Rajikant with the MACC, and then we've got staff here.
Kelly Doward with the MACC. Elisa McWater with the MACC. Alston with the MACC.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Next thing that we need to cover are the minutes from our last meeting. If there's any changes or corrections, please point them out. Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to be approved. Minutes be approved.
Okay, David made the motion. A second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Public comments. We don't have any folks from the public here today, but Steve will be covering something he received from a member of the public and a former board member of the MACC.
That's right. I think many of you know Ann Query at your place setting is a letter that she submitted regarding the community enhancement program. And in essence, she's supportive of that endeavor and encourages those of you who are considering the community enhancement program to support that. As Pankaj just mentioned, Ann is a former board member, and her note kind of goes through a little bit of the history and her involvement both on this board and with the MACC, as well as her tenure as director of the Zeeland Chamber of Commerce. And certainly she can provide a wonderful perspective in that regard, both having sat around this table as well as in her tenure as director of the chamber there. And I'll leave it to you to review that at your leisure. But, in essence, she feels that, regional assets do have a place and are worthy of support, and does draw out here that, it can be difficult for every asset to fully support or enhance every unit of government, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, received it yesterday in the email and wanted to give that to you. And certainly if you have any questions regarding it, be happy to answer those. But just want to point that out to you.
All right, thanks, Steve. And yeah, Ann certainly has a good reputation, primarily with when she was in the Chamber of Commerce. We'll move on to the Macatawa Watershed Project, and believe Kelly's going to be talking a little bit about that today with green infrastructure.
Yeah, so similar to what we did last month with the watershed, we did that educational time with cover crops. So today I'm going to talk about green infrastructure because we hope to be working more with green infrastructure in the future. So first up here, I have probably the simplest definition that I've found of green infrastructure. It's approach to water management that mimics nature, and in particular, stormwater. So how can we manage stormwater the way that nature does? And so I think this is a pretty good illustration of kind of the challenges that we face with mimicking nature. I went to a conference and we had a speaker did something very similar with, what's the difference between these pictures? And I think, the big difference is the pavement, right? The impervious surfaces that don't allow rainwater to get into the ground where it naturally would in this kind of a setting. There's also the less tree canopy that is a manager of stormwater as well, that captures that intercepts rainwater as it falls. Leaves do trap stormwater. So what can we do to mimic nature? And that's where green infrastructure or low impact development comes into play. So just some kind of examples of types. Let me turn the light off so we can see the pictures a little bit better. So in green infrastructure, there's lots of different types of green infrastructure, and probably the first and most important is preserving natural land. So if you're looking at a site for development, what natural features on that site can be preserved and used to manage water? That really is first and foremost. That's going to be the most inexpensive way to manage stormwater, whereas the rest of these might have a cost associated with them. So you've got everything from downspout disconnection, so downspouts from houses, directing them into the ground instead of across pavement and into the storm drain, to rainwater harvesting, so things like cisterns, rain barrels even, rain gardens, so using vegetation, planter boxes. A lot of these are vegetated practices, bioswales, but then also permeable pavement that would allow rainwater to infiltrate through the pavement into some kind of a collection system underneath a parking lot. And then there's some other things there. But so here's some examples of green infrastructure that we have in the watershed. So this is one of the rain gardens at Smallenberg Park, which has a great system of rain gardens, bioswale complex, to manage all of the stormwater that's coming off of those paved surfaces in Smallenberg, which are quite extensive. And then here, this is at Holland High School. They do use quite a bit of permeable pavement in their parking lots, in particular in the parking spaces, where in the driving spaces it is still traditional pavement, but then they've got the permeable pavement so that all of the rainwater that's coming off that parking lot can still go into that pervious system. And then there's a collection system underneath that would encourage water to infiltrate into the ground, and then any overflow would go into the city's storm sewer system. And then here is an example of a green roof, a pretty extensive green roof that's at the Hayworth headquarters. These are some pictures that I took when I went on to a conference in Indianapolis, StormCon. They have a huge conference every year to talk about stormwater. So it was in Indianapolis this past summer, so it's close enough to drive, a little bit cheaper than flying. So Indianapolis is doing some really cool things with green infrastructure, so I just wanted to show some other examples. And this first picture here actually incorporates stormwater and transportation, multi-use paths. So they have a whole system of bike paths in the city of Indianapolis that uses permeable pavement, and then these planter boxes along the road would collect the water that comes off of them. But then this is just a bike path, because then there's a pedestrian sidewalk here too. So you've got your pedestrians separated from the bicycles, separated from the traffic with a barrier of vegetation. So it's a really cool system, and I forget how many miles. It's a cultural bicycle trail that was, lots of millions of dollars, and took a lot of partners and a lot of years to get it in place. But it's a really cool system, so if you ever go to Indianapolis and haven't been on the cultural trail, I would highly encourage you to do so. So from here, where this intersection was, this is actually their transit authority, one of their stations, where they have put these planter boxes in and this permeable walkways in between to manage all the stormwater at that particular bus station. And then you can kind of see over here is where the buses would line up, and then kind of behind me from where I was taking the picture was the actual station that people could go inside. So they basically built the new bus station, and I think they managed all the stormwater on site. None of the stormwater leaves the site unless there's an extreme event, then they're connected to the city storm sewer system. This is an example, a different type of a green roof, again in a business in Indianapolis that we were able to see. And then this was really neat, and I can't remember the street, but the conference center is right behind here at the back. So from the conference center, we were able to see this facility here. So there's two single lanes for car traffic on either side. But this city block was basically underutilized. Not very attractive for pedestrians, not very friendly for bicyclists. So they basically revamped the entire street system. And within the center of the street, it's all permeable pavement, or pavers, and there's a rainwater collection system underneath that infiltrates rainwater into the ground. But then it's added this nice space for the community as well. So where this space was not utilized before, now there's festivals and community events that occur out here. And there are these automatic sunshades that will come out to provide shade or protection from rain. They do also have, it's kind of hard to see in this picture here, but their public bike share system. So you can get a bike right there, or you can return your bike and enjoy the space. So kind of some cool things that Indianapolis is doing to incorporate green infrastructure. So why do we care about green infrastructure? I mean, that's all pretty and fine and dandy, but there's a lot of benefits to green infrastructure. So the big one that we care about as a watershed project are those environmental benefits. The green infrastructure is going to help us to improve water quality. It's going to help alleviate flooding by keeping some of that rainwater on site as opposed to rushing it all to the storm drain into the river right away. Because of the vegetation that's incorporated in most green infrastructure, you'll get an air quality benefit. Also, a lot of green infrastructure is being utilized in climate resiliency projects, whether that's shoreline improvements or just overall climate resiliency for increased storm events. And then obviously there's habitat benefits with, again, vegetated practices. But then there are the other social and economic benefits as well. Implementing green infrastructure creates green jobs. It's somewhat specialized. I mean, there are kind of landscape architects and engineers, and there's all kinds of aspects to green infrastructure that can create jobs. The aesthetics from green infrastructure and the other environmental benefits can help increase property values. And then compared to a lot of traditional stormwater management techniques, there is cost savings. When you think about putting in big concrete pipes under a roadway to manage stormwater compared to putting in a vegetated bioswale alongside of the road, typically that's going to be much less costly. And then there are some proven social benefits that green space that's created by green infrastructure encourages people to get outside because they enjoy being outside. So people are outside, they're active, they're going to be healthier. And you can create some recreation space and still have it be functional to manage stormwater. So specific to the Macatawa area, we did recently receive a grant from the Community Foundation of the Holland Zeeland area to support a project for us to create a green infrastructure vision for the watershed. We had previously submitted this to the EPA's Urban Water Small Grant Program, and we were not successful in receiving that grant. So we revamped it a little bit and submitted it to the Community Foundation. So some of the components that we're going to work on in this is developing a green infrastructure suitability map for the urbanized area of the watershed. And we hope to do that on a parcel by parcel scale to look at, does this parcel have high, medium, or low potential for green infrastructure? Looking at things like the depth to water table, proximity to structures, what's the current land ownership? And then beyond just that map, we're going to work with a private consultant from Kaiser and Associates to do some further prioritization and conceptual designs. So within that urbanized area, he's going to take a look at our green infrastructure suitability and start looking at where is the low-hanging fruit, where's the places that green infrastructure could be easily implemented. And so again, to try to prioritize, and in particular for the municipalities and public-owned land, where would be the easiest places and most cost-effective places to put green infrastructure. And so then he'll put together some cost estimates and even some preliminary conceptual designs so that by the end of this project, we'll have almost ready-to-go projects, besides probably final engineering and then obviously where to raise the funds to implement the projects. But I'm pretty excited about that piece of it. We did not have that included in our original proposal. We also will be holding a training event that would be targeted to both designers of green infrastructure and also to those that make decisions about stormwater management, so like your planning commissions, and also all of you would be part of that as well. So kind of a mixed group of professionals and planners and reviewers of green infrastructure. So we hope to do that next summer, late summer. And then beyond having that big training event, we will do some individual outreach to each municipality, again, in particular planning commissions, because they're the ones that are typically reviewing site plans for stormwater management, to just kind of reinforce the results of the mapping and the prioritization of this. And then one particular neighborhood that we included to do some specific outreach and kind of develop a neighborhood green infrastructure plan was with Holland Heights. So that was in the original plan with the EPA grant because they had an emphasis on underserved communities. Community Foundation liked that we kept that in there, so we will continue with that. So again, kind of a lot of this is going to happen next summer, where we'll schedule some meetings with the residents of Holland Heights in their neighborhood to really talk about, where is green infrastructure needed? Where do they see the problems with flooding and stormwater management? And then again, hopefully have some prioritization and conceptual designs done at the end of the project that would be ready to implement. So that's kind of the basics that I wanted to share on green infrastructure. There is a packet at your place setting, this benefits of low impact development. This is probably the best set of fact sheets that I've found that kind of cover all the basics of green infrastructure or low impact development, and kind of dispel the myths or barriers to implementing. So I wanted to make sure everybody had a copy of that. And then I do have some other resources on the back table there. I've got just single copies of things, but if anybody wants one of those copies, you're welcome to take it. They're all digital. I can email you the digital copies of those as well. Plus, if you'll remember, was that a year and a half ago, we had developed a MACC Watershed Stormwater Guidebook. So most of you should have that, and again, your boards or planning commissions, I think I visited most everyone, should have copies of that, but I do have a few copies on the back table there if you weren't with us at that time. And if you have any questions, you can ask questions now or feel free to contact me. And again, as we move this Community Foundation program forward, we'll be in contact with all of you to come talk to your boards and planning commissions more about green infrastructure. So any questions right now? Okay. All right, well, the one last thing that I just wanted to share is a reminder for the Watershed Annual Meeting. It was included in the MACC Monthly that went out this morning, and I did already receive several RSVPs, so that was very encouraging. And then all the local, state, and federal elected officials should be receiving a mailed invitation, so many of you should be receiving a mailed invitation either at your home or at your township or city hall offices. So hopefully everybody can make it.
Wonderful. Kelly, thank you so much for the information, and certainly look forward to the results of your study and what you find out. Steve, I think you're going to cover some transportation issues next.
That's right. We've finished up the construction season, so I just wanted to do a quick recap of where 2016 landed. By far the largest program the MACC has ever had in terms of a single year, coming in at about $44.6 million. You can see it more than doubles what we had in 14, which was a fairly large year with the reconstruction of 196 from Saugatuck up to M40. More typical program is a 12 to 15 year like we had in 15. And the reason for the very large program this past fiscal year was this job right here that we all endured, adapted to, that was going on. The reconstruction of US 31, including a widening portion. So the segments of the project were about 3.5, 3.6 miles from 8th Street north to Quincy. And then the southern portion of that was resurfacing, but from basically the Lakewood on-ramps to the trunk line, heading north then, was widened to 3 lanes in each direction. So they chose not to, how do I get the green light again, guys? The button with the line? There it is, thank you. So, the department didn't want to mess with the structures. So this aerial here is looking north, and I should give credit to Michael Eastman. He's an MDOT employee who is a recreational pilot, and he said, I'm going to be up flying, and he works for the TSC who ran, Muskegon TSC who ran this job, and he said, I want to get some pictures of it. I said, send some over, please. So we're indebted to him. So it's not like the MACC has a plane, is up there taking photos. So we're looking north here, interchange with BL 196, and the department had said it's a little too expensive to get in and do the bridge decks and widen those to 3 lanes over BL 196 as well as the river and the railroad tracks and Lakewood Boulevard. So those all remain the same, but then as soon as they cleared the bridges, that's when they did the widening project. So, it started off, of course, they did some pre-work in 2015, so they were ready to go right after tulip time. They moved in, and I thought the contractor and the department did a great job of staying on schedule, and of course the weather helped in that regard, but I thought they were wonderful in their communication. Elisa and I had worked with the department. We reported on that in terms of getting information out about the project. The department fulfilled every promise they made in terms of setting up a special email list serve for folks who wanted a little bit more information when there are going to be stage changes and so forth. Did all that, kept in touch with the print media and radio media as well. So a great project. This inset photo here is actually what you're seeing there is a kind of an innovative paving technique that they're using called echelon paving, where they're running 2 pavers at the same time. And when you're looking at doing 3 lanes like that, the benefit of this type of technique is you get a much better seam there between the 2 when they're running. And if you ride that, now this is when they were doing northbound, I got out there, that seam is really nice on there. So that was great that got incorporated into it. So, well over 50% of that 44.6 million went into this job, and there will be a little bit of follow-up work done next spring. They've got to do some substructure work on some of the bridges, so there'll be lane closures and so forth to get that done, but they'll maintain traffic and probably just have a lane closed when they do that in the spring. So looking at a couple of local jobs that received federal funding up in Olive Township, Port Sheldon from US 31 east to 120th, a couple mile stretch there, received $440,000 in federal aid. And another Ottawa County Road Commission job on 136th Avenue, mile segment there from Riley to Quincy was reconstructed and widened to a 3-lane cross section with curb and gutter that you can see in there as well. That received, in this past fiscal year, it got $912,000, and this year it's getting about an additional $81,000 from the 17 program. So between the two, nearly $1 million in federal aid for that job. Our non-motorized project that we funded with MACC this year was in the city of Zeeland on Fairview. That's not Kevin there, if you're wondering. So, but it just happened that rider came through and was wearing a helmet. I try never to put photos of folks in that aren't wearing helmets, but he was even wearing a helmet, so that worked out pretty well. So connected, they had a path that ended actually right next to that utility pole. We're looking north here. So this was a continuation of that path up to Washington. That was the recipient of, I think, $181,000 in federal funds for that job. So a great project. And then a local job that took place this year was actually funded in fiscal year 15, but got constructed this year, was 9th Street in the city of Holland, from Washington to the point where 9th and 8th Street come back together by the DeVos Fieldhouse. So I think that's about 1.25 miles. That was the recipient of $1.23 million in federal funding. So the city in that cross-section, or in that segment, did a lot of different things with their cross-section. I mean, there's some segments that are still 3 lanes, some were reconfigured, like this section. We're at Central Avenue looking east here. Went from a 3-lane cross-section to 2 through lanes with, in this particular segment, parking, on-street parking, as well as a bike lane. The next section up between College and Columbia, they put in some pedestrian crossings by Hope's campus. So we were participants in that project too for a little over $1.2 million. So just kind of in terms of summary, Uncle Sam showed up in a big way in this particular fiscal year, resulting in about 3/4 of the funding that was provided, 74% or $33.1 million. The state came in with their 20% required match on their job, so they landed right at 20%, and then there was local participation in those various jobs on the road side of 2.5 million or 6%. I mean, you get into a 9th Street job, which I think was, what, 8 million, I think it ended up being the total cost, or 136th Avenue had significant local contribution for water main work or other things. Those aren't reflected in those. That's only match to the road portions of various projects. And then if you take a look at the program by mode, it was definitely a year for the road and bridge, nearly 39 million, representing 87% of the expenditures. Transit at 5.4 million, about 12% of the program, and then minor amounts for the non-motorized, and the other is actually the Clean Air Action Program, each totaling less than 1% of the total program this year. So, again, I just want to say thank you to all the implementing agencies for getting their projects done. I mean, us planners like to joke that building, it's the easy part, but that's really not the case, and we understand that, and so we're thankful for everyone who received federal funding to get their projects done. We had another great program this year. Any questions regarding the 16 program?
It looks like it was a busy year for the MACC, and probably a good whole lot of infrastructure improvements in our area, so that's good. Looks like Lisa is up next with some information on a data collection report for Allegan and Ottawa counties.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, Carol and I are going to be giving you a presentation on PASER data, how we collect the data, what we look for, what we do with the data, and the purpose is just to be able to walk you through so you're more familiar with this program. It is a very important part of what we do in the transportation department. This information is something that the state looks at very carefully, and it's something that all of our local road agencies benefit from as well. So I'm going to begin with just a summary of the program and show you some illustrations so that you can understand what we look for. And then Carolyn is going to follow with some of the details. In your packet, you received a large ledger size map and pie chart. So that is the piece that Carolyn will be walking through for you. So what we see on the screen right now is exactly what we see from our laptop when we are collecting road data. And I should let you know that, first of all, one of the requirements of the program is that we attend an annual training. And it is a pretty intense training to look at different types of pavement conditions to be able to identify any structural damage. And as you can imagine, when we go through and rate the roads, it is a team of 3. So it's the Michigan Department of Transportation, the MACC staff, and then the local road agency. And this is an important piece of it is the training so that everyone has a very thorough understanding of how a road is rated and so that our scores are consistent. And it's helpful each year to have our skills brushed up, to be able to brush up on our skills. But basically what we do is MDOT will use an MDOT vehicle and MDOT staff will drive. And the MACC will typically sit in the back seat with the laptop and a GPS unit that's placed on the hood of the vehicle or above the window, depending on the vehicle itself. And then we go over segments of roadway, which the computer recognizes. So it could be a 10-foot segment within the city of Holland, for example. So we have to make a very quick decision on what that rating would be. A longer segment would be US 31, for example. That has much larger, longer pieces. As we ride over that segment, you'll see to the right a green bar. That means it's been rated. And it will not tell us what the previous rating was, which is good. I mean, we want to be able to rate it fresh each and every year. And then the MACC staff person will select the score that's given for that road, 10 being excellent and 1 being very poor, which thankfully we don't have in our region at this time. But you can imagine that's a pretty rough surface to be riding over. So yeah, it's a collective process among the 3 road raters. And as we rate each segment, we move on, and then the computer program advances as we drive forward. The next step in this process is using RoadSoft. So the LDC is the laptop data collector. That's simply in the field. We take that data, export it into this other software, which many of the road commissions use. MDOT uses it as well, and the City of Holland. So it's a great program for inventory, and being able to include that information in a regional database is helpful. We check to make sure that all the segments have been rated accurately. And then we go on to export it and submit it to the state. And what I wanted to show you with this in particular is that the process of submitting the data is something that typically, all of the regions must submit their data by Thanksgiving. So we went ahead and submitted ours early in November. But then it goes on to a state dashboard, and I wanted you to know that. You can check that at any time. And it's managed, it's the Transportation Asset Management Council. So, and many of you have heard of the Asset Management Council. And they have an interactive map on their dashboard. So this shows our region and an overlay with the rated roads. Red segments are obviously, as you would imagine, red to be something that's more of a concern in terms of its rating. So, but this is kept, it's data that's kept statewide. It's used for prioritizing projects. We at the MACC use the PASER ratings as we're evaluating projects in the TIP, in the Long Range Transportation Plan. And I wanted to make sure that you are aware that this information is available to you. And we also wanted to make sure as staff that we communicate to you what we do, why we do this. And then Carolyn is going to give you more details on the actual network itself and what the score was this year. So before I pass the baton, does anyone have any questions about how we rate the roads? No? Pretty clear?
Do you do this every year, Elisa?
We do. And we typically have Allegan County one year, Ottawa County the other. This year we did over 300 miles. So that's a lot of sitting and a lot of driving. But it's a great process. And again, having a team of 3 to be able to rate roads is very important. So, all right.
All right, like Lisa said, in your packets you probably have something that looks a little like this, with the chart and the segments of road rated. And like she said, this year we did both counties, so we were at about 300 miles. And you know, I was thinking over this Thanksgiving holiday, I drove up north, and the round trip is about 300 miles. So you know, if you think of it in that scale, it's quite a bit of distance. We were fortunate too this year with this combined map of having both Ottawa and Allegan. Last year we also did Ottawa and Allegan. I think next year we'll be going back to just doing one county at a time every other year. So one of the major things I noticed from 2015 to 2016 is that, let's get through here a bit further. So yeah, there's our area. So the pie chart in 2015, it was a perfect split of 50-50, 50% poor and fair, and then 50% good and excellent. This year you can see it kind of swings to 56% in that good and excellent, which is great. And you know, if you really look at the map and think about the projects that went on, a lot of that is in it's contributed mainly from US 31. So that's a lot of mileage for a nice high score of 10. And then even that segment that was done, that was paved last year, that would give us a score of 9. So that large amount of pavement and mileage really adds to our overall total this year. So it's really great to see that, you know, that project overall for our region gives a good snapshot and also increases our good to excellent category. So we're happy about that. Also, if you are interested in just Ottawa counties, or just Allegan counties, a map like this with the pie chart and the map with it, I have both of those in the office. So let us know. You can either let me know here today or send me over an email, and I can get you one for a specific county if you are interested in that as well. So we have many different ones. We also have another map that has blend-in included as well. If you want a larger snapshot of Ottawa County, we have that as well. So we have quite a few different maps in the office from this year. Any other questions about Pacer? All right. All right, it remains one of my favorite things, so.
And Elisa will be talking to us about the Park Township Transit Study Open House.
All right. As you know, MACC staff is working on a transit study, and we wanted to invite you all to an open house, which is December 8th from 3 to 6 p.m. It will be at Park Township's office. And this is, we've talked to you before about the transit study. We're doing a regional transit study, but at the request of Park Township, we're focusing first on Park Township. So we've been looking at a great deal of data, demographic data for the township, looking at potential areas that could be served. And this open house, everyone is welcome, so we would love to see residents there, but we invite all of you to attend as well. And it's a great opportunity to hear from the community and see if they have any specific areas they feel that should be served, and be able to assess demand. So just wanted to make sure you knew you're all invited. There's also a newsletter at your place, which is being emailed out, so it's kind of a unique format, and we're trying to get as many people aware of it as possible and have the opportunity for public input. Do you have anything you want to add, Jerry?
Just that we've been getting more and more requests. There's no question we're not ahead of this issue like we should be, but I'm confident that with the help and the data that's being gathered, our board can make a decision. That the challenge for us is going to be we have 4 new board members. as of a week ago. And I can guarantee you that the former board had very few 7-0 votes, but all 7 board members supported this project. And so hopefully we're going to get the 4 new board members on board, and Lisa and folks at the MACC have been very helpful. Because we need some data to make decisions, and it appears the first step certainly is going to be some general fund dollars allocated to start the pilot project to document the ridership and the need. But you're going to help us do that, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Lisa. And Jerry, thanks again for thinking ahead a little bit for transit studies in your township. That's good. MDOT, I don't think we have anyone from MDOT here today, so we'll move to administrative issues. Steve, I think maybe you just have the monthly financial report.
Yep, we're on an October 1st fiscal year, so this reflects our first month of
I'm sorry.
operation.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Steve, but back to the MDOT. Have we received any communication back from MDOT on rebuilding the M40, 48th Street intersection? Both this body and the Allegan Road Commission and Hamilton Schools and our Board of Commissioners have all adopted resolutions urging MDOT to advance their work on that in cooperation with our Road Commission. And the reason I bring it up is that the MDOT is going to be mobilized in the Hamilton area next year to do some reconstruction. About a half mile, I think, maybe, John, from where this intersection is?
No, less than that.
Less than that, yeah.
100 feet.
Yeah, I mean, and so it might be worthwhile for us to at least say, you know, have you received our letters and resolutions? And, you know, can you think about advancing your schedule? I mean, it's a pretty dangerous intersection, as the sheriff can attest to. But it's been on our list of all our public agencies for a long time.
I did get a formal response regarding our resolution about the placement of 196 southbound in their 5-year program. So we did get a formal response from that. I did not receive any formal response regarding the 48th M40 resolution. So, and I don't know if the Road Commission or the schools or anyone else has, but we did not.
We did from our association, Michigan Association of Counties, we received a response
Oh, okay.
saying thank you for the resolution and we'll help you out.
Okay.
But it'd be nice to hear what MDOT has to say about it, since they're the, you know, they're 50% of the problem. I mean, 50% of the issue. Our road commission is the other, but
Yeah.
I would be nice to do this because, you know, 2017 we're going to all be paying more as part of the road package that was passed. And it would be nice to see some of that while they're mobilized anyway in 2017. See if they couldn't just add this to their work list.
And not to get too into the details, but do you know if the work that you're talking about within a few hundred feet, is that down by 136th?
The work that they're going to do is from basically the school on the south end up past 136, about halfway to that.
Okay, because I'm trying to figure out what MDOT TSC, so the 48th M40 is going to fall under the jurisdiction of the Muskegon TSC, and I'm wondering what TSC is coordinating the, because let's hope it's the same one, is what I'm trying to figure out where those other improvements are happening, because as soon as you get south of 136, it's the Kalamazoo TSC. Oh, it would be, okay. Yeah, that's good news, because that's always much easier if you only have to deal with one TSC, so. But yeah, we should follow up with Leanne Mikesill as the manager of the Muskegon TSC and see, I mean, she was actually at our board meeting where we passed that resolution, so I know she's aware of it. So.
The initial discussion, Jeff, was that the two projects had to stand independently, separate, and that's probably going to be the thing we're going to have to face.
Right.
If we can get them combined, which is very hard.
I agree, but I think we should tell them I haven't forgotten about it.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt the meeting.
No, that's important stuff.
If you ever want to see a traffic challenge, take a few minutes at 5 p.m. and stop by that intersection. It's just unbelievable the amount of traffic that's coming south on M40 from the Hayworths and so forth. And it's in the city of Holland, but it truly is a dilemma. And it's very, very dangerous. And if you get a chance to see it, you wouldn't even think something like that existed in West Michigan. So anywhere between 4:30 and 6 o'clock, it's pretty astounding, the amount of traffic. That traffic backs up all the way up the hill to the old beech nut plant when it's going southbound at 5 o'clock.
You're talking about the movement on 48,
I'm talking on M40,
Or M40.
by 48.
48 in the city of Holland.
Yes, city of Holland.
So is this something that the MAC can talk
Yeah, I can follow up
to
with Leanne and
if
see
we can push
yeah.
it up?
Where it's heading?
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up. Appreciate it. Okay, any other discussion? No, I'm glad you shared that. If not, we'll have Steve cover the monthly financial report. Or, I'm sorry, did you have something, Nancy? No? Okay, all right.
Yep, so I was noting, this is the first month in the new fiscal year, and I think the expenditure and revenues totals reflect that. So if there's any questions on the financial report, I'd be happy to answer those. If not, also included in the packet was a summary of the last executive committee meeting. I noticed I failed to put the participants in that meeting in there, but they were Terry Nienhuis, Punkage, and David Van Ginhoven attended that last meeting. Be happy to answer any questions regarding that report.
Just one thing I wanted to point out in the administrative issues under the MAC exec committee was the cyber attack thing, where they sort of take over your system and hold it ransom. It seems like there's a number of those happening in West Michigan. My wife works in Grand Rapids and they have the same thing. So whatever you need to do to protect yourself, take a look at it proactively.
We spent $1,800 to fix ours.
I haven't received the bill yet, but I have a feeling we're going to do a budget amendment on our IT line item this year.
At least we didn't pay that.
Yeah, right. I know at one point we had 5 people from our IT firm working on it, getting us back up. And they got us, they had our email restored within a few hours. They had a temporary server within a few days. We had a backup of the data because it encrypted about 90% of our data. So, but we had a backup, so they restored that. So, but we're still in the process now of getting fully functional again. But yeah, very frustrating.
All I wanted to say was it's not an isolated incident. It seems to be happening a lot and more recently. So maybe you hear more about it, Blaine, sometimes. Or
No, we're just victims of it as well.
okay.
Yeah. Oh, you talk with people.
All right. Well, we'll turn it over to Terry to maybe bring us up to speed on some things in Holland Charter Township.
Thank you. Welcome to Holland Township. Yeah, it's been a busy year, busy summer, and it's ongoing right now. There's a number of projects that we're still working on. Just a real quick report, November 8th, the election, we had 15,297 votes, which represents a 66.8% turnout, which is a little higher than what it was in 2012, which was 64.8%.
Nice.
There's a very large project that both, the three of us, Zeeland City and Zeeland Charter Township and us are involved in, as far as we're redirecting a large part of the wastewater over to the newly, it's currently under construction. The Zeeland wastewater plant is being expanded to accept that. And so we're we're involved heavily into redirecting and upgrading lift stations and building new lines, et cetera, et cetera. And it's really part of a collaboration that started well over a decade ago, I would say, in discussions with Zeeland City and Zeeland Charter Township. So that the numbers are good, and so we decided some time ago to go ahead with it. Also, we're in the midst of Dutton Park waterfront improvements, which if you go in there now, you'll see it as they are today, working on that project, which involves a restroom building down by the boat launch, a shade shelter, playground area and equipment. They're going to put in a free-floating dock, which is being built mainly to accept canoes and kayak launch, benches, picnic tables, and etc. And we expect that they're going to work on it until the weather prohibits that, but we expect it will resume in the spring and completion sometime in midsummer. And of course, as Steve mentioned earlier, we had this huge project right over here on 136 from Riley to Quincy, which involved water main and a Greenleaf Street sewer main project. And those folks that live along that stretch all summer long, they were required to travel dirt and gravel roads. So when you saw vehicles coming from that way, they didn't look quite the same as the rest of ours. And so, yeah, Don took many calls regarding that over the summer, and we think that most everyone is happy now. Not totally everyone, but that's our goal. And then, of course, the demauling project, which we've all witnessed here regarding West Shore Mall, which is now known as Shops at West Shore. That's a good thing for the community, obviously. That's a property that was in decline, and now it's being rejuvenated, and it really looks good. No, I can't tell you when Chick-fil-A is going to open.
There's a Golden Corral.
Yes.
The Golden Corral, there you go. But that's about it. I can tell you more, but that's about it for today.
On that note, thank you, Terry. Appreciate your hosting us, and yeah, certainly a lot of good things going on in Howland Charter Township as well. Are there any other comments from members or anything for the good of the group? No?
So I just want to remind everyone that due to the Christmas holiday, we will move our meeting up a week next month. So instead of getting together on the December 26th, we will gather on December 19th, and we'll be doing that down at the Outdoor Discovery Center, it sounds like, in Fillmore Township.
I'm not sure, I haven't confirmed that, unless you have.
Okay.
Yeah, I confirmed with Fillmore to do it at Fillmore Township.
Oh, okay.
We can see if we can do it out.
We plan on Fillmore Township.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at the Township Hall. All righty. On the 19th.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Jerry, second. All in favor?